Hi guys, my name is Mike and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to perform frequency separation and retouch an image like a pro using Adobe Photoshop. My version of Photoshop is Adobe 2020, Photoshop 2020, but you don't need to worry if you're using an earlier version. It's all the same. So this is the image you're going to edit. So I'll just right click on it, open with Adobe Photoshop 2020, and now we are here. This is the camera raw for Adobe Photoshop 2020. I just want to adjust a few parameters. Normally I don't like touching all these sliders up here. I'll just adjust the vibrance to make the colors pop a bit, since this is a raw image. I'm going to take it all the way up to 46 should be fine. For the saturation, if I put it all the way there, it looks bad, so I'm just going to increase it a little bit. Maybe plus 6 is still too high. Plus 2 will do. This the before and this the after. You can see the difference. Now I can see that this image is a bit dark in the background. You just want to increase the exposure a little bit. This trial and error, but this should be fine. Okay, thank you. Okay, so here we are once again, and we are about to perform frequency separation. Frequency separation is a technique whereby we are going to soften the skin of this model by removing all these pimples, adjusting her textures so that she can look great. Now, I just want to remind you, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please subscribe, because this channel will teach you a lot that you need to become a pro editor. So the first thing you do while performing frequency separation, we just want to duplicate our layer and name the first layer tones. Please watch this very carefully. And then we are going to duplicate the layer a second time and name the second layer textures. Now, so we have 3 layers: the background, the tones, and the textures. What we're going to do, I'm going to make this background layer invisible, and yeah, that's it. Now what we are going to do next, I'll also make the textures layer invisible and click on the tones. So I'll come to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. So now what I want to do, I want to blur all the tones in the model, so that I want to blur all the textures on the model's skin. First, you take the radius 0.0 pixels. There's very minimal blur on her face, as you can see right here. And now I want to increase the radius a little bit, so that the text I want to retain is the one that's going to be blurred right here. So I'll just increase the radius all the way 3.9. It's starting to be blurred, but still I'm going to keep it at 5.0. should be good enough. You can see right here, you can only see the tones, but you can't see the textures. Now I'm going to click OK, and then I'll make my textures layer visible. Okay, you can see the difference. I'm going to zoom it in so you can see the difference. This is the textures layer, this is the tones, and this is the textures. So I'm going to separate the two. That's why it's called frequency separation. I'll click on the textures. Now please watch this very carefully. I'm going to image, apply image, and I'm going to select the layer. I'm selecting the tones, watch this very carefully. The blending, now I want to subtract the tones from the textures, so blending mode, I'll select subtract, and scale and offset, please watch this very carefully. The scale will be 2, the offset will be 128. You don't really need to understand the physics behind the scale and the offset. These are the values you're going to use most of the time in your portraits. Now I'll click on OK. And then here on the blending mode, I'm going to select linear light. Now if you haven't watched those steps, please just go back 30 seconds and watch it again. Now if you look at our image, it looks like nothing has happened to it, but trust me, there's something happening to it. Now I'm going to start separating doing the frequency separation. I'll click on the tones, make sure you've clicked on the tones right here. And then I'll come and select the lasso tool. Make sure the feather, usually your feather will be around 0 pixels most of the time, but we just want to make it 18, at least 18. With experience, you'll learn why I'm doing all this, but for now, just follow what I'm teaching you. 18 pixels should be fine. Now, I'm going to separate the frequencies on her cheek. Please watch this carefully. I'll select the area around her cheek carefully. Yeah, I've selected the area. Now I'm going to just select the filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and make sure right here you have highlighted the tones layer. Now I'm going to increase the blur a little bit, little by little. Just watch the changes as you can see. So I don't want to overdo it. I'm going to push it up to maybe most of the time this value shouldn't exceed 20 pixels. I'm going to use 18, as you can see. Yeah, we have that. Nice. I'm going to select the next area, which is her forehead. Now I'm going to select it very carefully. Just watch, don't get tired. Oops. Now I'm selecting her forehead area very carefully. Oops. Now you don't really need to worry about the selection being perfect, since you've put the feather. 18 pixels should take care of the so I'm going to do the same thing I did to her chin right here. I'm going to select the filter, Gaussian blur. It's the last step, but if you want to go the long route, you can still go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, put the same radius right here and say OK. And next I'm going to do this all over her face, the same thing. Now you can just come to filter and click on the most recent action right here. It's the Gaussian blur, and you can see filter, Gaussian blur. Now this technique will help you. Since I started using this technique, I got many clients and my prices also went up, and the clients are willing to pay. So I highly recommend you do the same to your images. It takes time, but it's worth it. I'm going to do the same on her nose carefully. Remember, if you overdo this, your image will end up looking patched, like a patched doll. So just keep it to the minimum. You can already see the changes coming out. Let me just show you what's happening right here. I'll group the tones and the textures. You can see the before, after, before, after, before, after. Let me zoom in a little bit. Before, after. So we're not done. I'm going to select on the tones once again, and I want to do it on her chest. So I'm going, first of all, let me do it on her neck. I'll just select her neck. Filter, Gaussian Blur. Now we gotta be really careful around here. You can see there's leaves all over. We don't want to select them. Now we can now see that her skin tones look, you can see that this is her skin tones. I've separated it from the textures, but she still has these small pimples. Now how do we remove these pimples? Go to the clone stamp tool, click on it, and reduce the size to around 20, because to the size of the largest pimple. In our case, this is her largest pimple. We're going to select an area with no pimple. You click on Alt, hold, and click right here. And then I'm going to click on the pimple. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, you have to select the textures before doing all that. Then you come to the clone stamp tool and click on Alt, hold it down, left click, then click on the pimple. You can see it's all getting crushed. Okay, in most situations you might find that the pimples are not visible. In that case, you'll come here to the layers and add a new black and white layer. You'll crush the reds. You can see the pimples are now very visible. And then make sure you've selected the textures layer. Then select the clone stamp tool and start selecting a region. Place it on the pimples, and the pimples, pimples, pimples. Now, after doing all that, removing all the pimples, I'm going to disable the black and white layer. I can even delete it if it makes you happy. And this is our model. Ain't she pretty? So thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe. In the next video, I'm going to teach you how to make her teeth white. Thank you.